Now, it's time to meet the players of college sports today and get this show started. He's a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, a first-round NFL draft choice, and a member of the College Football Hall of Fame as both a player and coach. He is the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. He's a rare two-time SEC Player of the Year and spent over a decade in the NFL. Ladies and gentlemen, Shane Matthews. And presenting the host of the show, with over 25 years of sports broadcasting experience, Terry Norvell. Coming to you from the College Sports Today studio, it's time for College Sports Today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell.
And we are back, Friday edition, College Sports Today. Shane Matthews, Terry Norvell. Coach Spurrier will be back on Monday. He has been busy, and we'll have the head ball coach right here on set on Monday. You can better believe that. We got a lot to cover here on the show. Shane, we'll get into this. We got 4 or 5 topics to get to the second half. We're going to talk a lot of name, image, likeness here in the first half with a special guest, an attorney that's diving into all this. But quickly, just an ugly, ugly loss for Gator baseball last night. Kentucky is a team that's fighting to get into the regionals. Florida's trying to maybe win the East. Ugly. Florida had taken control of the game by about the 7th inning and let it get away.
Yeah, I mean, I turned it on. We're down 5-1, tied up 5-5, and I fall asleep and then found out this morning that we lose. I felt like we needed to sweep Kentucky, we needed to sweep Georgia, and then win one game against Arkansas to possibly have a chance to be a top 8 seed. I'm not sure we're going to be a top 8 seed now. Yeah,
it's looking tough. Going to have some help now. Florida is 2 games behind, I guess Tennessee and Vanderbilt in the East. They're 2 games in the loss column behind. Have to win the series, have to win today and tomorrow against Kentucky, have to take at least 2 or 3. Got to get one, like you said, at Arkansas, and they got to get some help now. They got to get some help. The problem is Vanderbilt is playing Alabama. They've got lower rung teams. They're not playing anybody really in the top echelon of the SEC the rest of the way.
You're a baseball guy, and for whatever reason, I feel like they've changed, not the rules, but they're going to already have the top 8 seats set before the conference tournaments. Yes or no?
I don't think so.
Okay, for some reason I felt like
you can't because you don't know who's going to still be alive.
Right, but I felt like they've already come out and said where the regions are going to be played.
Well, here's where it's looking at. The NCAA baseball committee has said it may be this weekend they're going to announce 20 potential regional sites.
Well, they've already done that.
No, that's going to come out.
I could have sworn I saw it on Twitter the other day.
They normally announce the actual 16. There'll be 16 regionals around the country. They're going to announce 20 to give them four regional leeway in case somebody COVID's out. Okay? So they're going to announce the 20 and pick the actual 16 soon.
Oh, okay. I could have sworn I saw
it.
Okay,
they're going now, you can't really determine. You can have the top 8, but some of your top 8 may get eliminated.
Good.
So you can't pick your top 8 locations yet.
Well, I didn't think so either, but I just saw a lot of talk about it. I'm like, why are they even talking about it right now until the tournaments are over? Because I don't even think COVID is an issue with college athletes anymore.
Don't think so. I don't think so, but that's what they're doing. They're going to announce 20 possible regional sites and then go ahead and pick the 16. I think they want to have a 4 leeway, but Florida really struggling right now. They just can't get consistent. They're going to need some help. Some other things we're going to get to, the College Football Playoff Committee. My God, I'm going to rip into them the second half of the show. It's amazing how difficult they make their job, and we'll get into that. LSU had some quarterback room movement. Tennessee, the Vols, finally got some good news in football, Shane. Alabama adds some more firepower on offense via the portal. Jimbo and Saban, more Jimbo, a little fun. Did you talk about that on your show?
I did.
Thoughts?
It was pretty funny, actually.
It was pretty funny. Jimbo, at one of his booster stops, right, asked, hey, man, when or how or are you going to be able to ever beat Alabama and Saban, or is it just a matter of him retiring? And Jimbo, paraphrasing, says, oh, don't worry, we're going to kick his ass when he's there. And Saban came back and said,
is he talking about in golf?
In golf? Great answer from Saban. So we'll get into some different topics. But what we want to do in the first half of the show, and you can help us out here if you're watching on Facebook Live and or YouTube. By the way, for all of our podcasters, thank you very much for listening, whatever platform. Make sure you also get signed up on Facebook, College Sports Today on Facebook, so you can follow the show if you want to go that way. And YouTube, our YouTube channel, College Sports Today. But certainly appreciate everybody out there on the podcasts scattered as well. Name, image, likeness. It is upon us now. It really is. It'll kick in the state of Florida on July 1st. We're going to bring on Dustin McGuire. He's an attorney out of the state of Illinois. He and his firm that he works with, they saw this coming. They went ahead and protected the website, nameimageLikeness.com. Shane, I just want to bring him on, and you and me and anybody that has any questions about this, pepper some thoughts his way. I'm still very ambiguous and confused on the whole thing.
Well, yeah, but did you see what happened in the state of Georgia?
Yeah, talk about that.
Well, what does that have to do with name, image, and likeness? I don't know. Are they the same thing or what? But was it the governor of
the governor,
Georgia?
Yes.
Basically said
Kemp.
It goes into effect this summer, I believe, that an athlete gets 25% of the endorsement or whatever, and the other 75% is spread among the other athletes, which I actually like that.
Yeah, I don't think that's the law. I think the governor said that's kind of how it's written, but they don't have to do that. They don't have to do that. But kind of what you just did is why we're getting Dustin McGuire, the attorney that we hope is going to help us kind of navigate. We've got questions, thoughts. There are so many layers, I think, to this thing, potential, and it's brand new. And God bless, before everybody starts beating the hell out of the NCAA, good luck trying to administer this.
Oh, it's going to be a nightmare.
What they already have to do, they can't police. There are 500,000 student athletes in college sports. So people are going to, when this thing gets going and there are issues down the road, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, people are going to immediately turn to the NCAA and start bitching and go, wait a minute, you can't have it both ways now. We want this, but Shane, I don't think we could employ the FBI to cover college athletics and get it covered right. It's so hard. It's almost impossible. It's untenable, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it many times, the name, image, and likeness, it's going to ruin college athletes or athletics. It's going to cause issues in the locker room.
I worry about it.
It's going to be player X is going to get an offer from school X. Hey, we'll put your picture on this Ford dealership billboard on I-75.
Absolutely.
And pay you $100,000. Why don't you transfer?
Yeah. I think, generality speaking, I'm all for name, image, likeness. I'm all for the athlete. My issues, and you'll hear me say this, I've said it in my career for years, I'll say it for years. Things worry me about something like name, image, likeness. How do you implement it? A good idea is one thing. Implementing it is another. Unintended consequences worry me. It's kind of what you said, Shane. What are the unintended? Sometimes there are great ideas that come down and there are unintended consequences. That worries me. The essence of college athletics, Shane, I worry that if so much money gets involved and if these athletes become basically paid participants, if the essence of college athletics, there's got to be a line or demarcation, if you ask me, between professional athletics and college athletics. Or we don't love them anymore. We just look and say, hey, this is nothing more than minor league sport. I don't know. There's just a lot. I worry. I'm for it, but I worry. With that, let's get our headphones on. I do believe Dustin McGuire, our guest here, is ready to go. Hey, Dustin, can you hear us okay, buddy?
I can hear you just fine, Terry. Shane, how you guys doing this morning?
Good, Dustin. Dustin McGuire, based out of Illinois, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm an attorney in the state of Illinois.
And Shane Matthews, Terry Norvell here. Thanks for your time. I know that the practice that you're with, obviously you guys handle a lot of stuff, but you and some of your colleagues there, I'm assuming, you kind of saw this several years ago, and you guys have locked up the website, nameimageLikeness.com, which tells me you guys are diving into this uncharted waters. Is that kind of correct, where you guys stand right now?
Correct, Terry. And first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm glad to be with you guys this morning. This area of name, image, likeness is my passion, has been since I was a college athlete and went on to be a college basketball coach myself. So that's my background. And as I mentioned, I'm an attorney in the state of Illinois, not a licensed attorney in the state of Florida, not an agent in the state of Florida. not using today's conversation to in any way give legal
Absolutely.
advice based on Florida's law, which goes into effect on July 1st. So, as you'd asked on kind of seeing this coming, I mentioned my background being a player and a coach. I was actually on the video games of EA Sports back when those were made with college basketball and college football. So that's my background, and I'm happy to elaborate on that. But I'm excited to be with you guys and answer any NIL-related questions this morning.
I know we're going to just pepper you with some different stuff, Shane and myself. Dustin, thank you. I'm going to lead off just a guess, and this is hypothetical. And what do you? I think, and let me preface it a little bit. I think a lot of student athletes out there right now are misguided. I think every single college athlete thinks the minute this kicks in their state, they're going to have money thrown at them. I don't think there's going to be a huge percentage of players that get deals. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's an interesting point to raise, Terry, especially coming off 2020 and COVID. What is it going to look like? I think the story right now is more important to be about the impact that name, image, likeness is going to have on college athletics, rather than a certain value that any given athlete will be able to earn because of it.
I guess my question, because I don't quite understand how it works or supposed to work. So let's say quarterback X at a school in the state of Florida, some Ford dealership wants to give him $100,000 to put his picture, do a commercial on a billboard, whatever. Are they just going to stroke this kid a check, goes into his bank account, or is he, after he graduates, how's it all going to work?
Well, there is sort of the implied principle in all the state laws and the NCAA proposed rules, the proposed federal laws that the United States Congress is working on. Within all of those is the intent that there be some transaction, right? That there be some use of the name, image, likeness. And just to touch on the Florida statute, Florida's law even goes as far as saying that there has to be compensation commensurate with the market value for the authorized use of name, image, likeness. So it's really hard to determine what market value is when there hasn't yet been a market.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is going to be about interpretation. As I mentioned, there are a number of states that are working on this. Florida and a number of others have July 1st start dates, so we're less than 60 days away.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that we start getting some clarity, because there are a lot of questions. Folks within athletic departments have questions, athletes have questions, parents, and the prospective professional service providers like myself are just wondering, exactly what is this going to look like, and how can we provide a service that's going to be allowed and add value.
Could a student athlete, for instance, use the internet? Student athlete playing at Auburn, say Auburn, just pick out Auburn. There are a million websites and Auburn fan sites and Go Tigers and AuburnTigers.com, a million of those websites out there. Could a player at, say, Auburn set up a GoFundMe account now and plaster it everywhere? Hey, this is Joe Smith. I'm a cornerback at Auburn. You guys know me. I've got a GoFundMe, man. My family's not well off. If anybody can help me, could they just do a GoFundMe and say send money now, and their amateurism would still be protected?
Well, Terry, my understanding of, again, state laws, proposed federal laws, and proposed NCAA rule changes is that sort of GoFundMe approach would not be allowed. There has to be some use of name, image, likeness again. So whether that's appearing in a commercial, signing an autograph, having an endorsement, or maybe something as simple as a social media post, there has to be some use again of the name, image, likeness of the athlete. So I think sort of implied in your question is what impact will this have with recruiting? And I think there's an interest from all stakeholders here to make sure that name, image, likeness does not just become a recruiting inducement. And you guys pose some good questions as far as what this is practically going to look like. How is this going to be regulated? The athletes, having access to those professional services so they know what they can and cannot do. And of course, reporting those, that's a big principle within all of the state laws, is that there's this reporting and disclosure requirement that's incumbent upon the athletes. So that box has got to be checked across the board.
So let me ask you this. The big center for Loyola Chicago, had a great career there. Let's just say they're in downtown Chicago. DePaul wants him to come play for him and for them instead, and they want to pay him X amount at this business, car dealership or whatever. Is that going to be allowed? I mean, I'm a little. I think it's going to be used. I think they're going to say, hey, you come play for us, we'll pay you X amount of dollars. But you said it has to be a value on that, right?
Correct, and the regulation, as I said, is going to be critical. How these laws are interpreted. As I mentioned, with the Florida law having that market value standard. What does that mean? Interestingly, the statute doesn't provide a definition for market value. So this conversation is taking place alongside the transfer portal, right? And this new ability to go directly from a Division I to a Division I without having to sit out. So Shane, I think your question is a very good one, because if I'm an athlete at perhaps a Power 5 school that is really getting a lot of attention, am I going to be essentially recruited away from my team in order to be the big fish in the small pond?
Yeah.
I think that's a real question. And again, coupled with the transferring and the transfer portal, I think it's going to take some real figuring out.
I'm for NIL in generality. I worry about implementation. I'm for the transfer portal. I'm pro-athlete. Now, I'm thinking this through, and it's giving me a bad taste in my mouth. The portal's out there. Anybody can look. I go on the portal all the time and look out. You can just, it's not a password protected. You can go on the portal and see who's out there. I don't want to see a college athletic world where, Shane, we go on the portal and we see Terry Norvell, quarterback, Auburn, looking to transfer, minimum bid $50,000. I just don't want to see that, and I'm being a little bit facetious here, but I worry about the essence of college athletics. There's still got to be a line of demarcation, if you ask me, between professional and college, or we fail to love it. Let me throw this out. I've heard some fans throw this out the last 6 months to a year. Well, you know what? The NCAA or Congress, somebody's got to put some caps on this, and you used the word caps, I think, a moment ago, Dustin. I worry about trying to put a cap on free market versus impinging on someone's civil rights to go cut a deal. We'll trying to cap something and say, hey, you can't go over 5,000 or 10,000. Will that infringe on civil rights, do you think? Just general civil rights of an American citizen,
Well, Terry, I certainly think it raises antitrust issues, and there is a pending ruling from the United States Supreme Court right now, the highest court in the land, on a case known as NCAA versus Alston. And that case is an antitrust case. It has to do with the amount of benefits that athletes can receive as part of their scholarship. And, the two big pieces of that are, the post-eligibility paid internships, as well as the graduate school scholarships. Right, and the value of those can become astronomical. And again, you asked the question about the caps and restricting NIL earnings. It's not totally related with this antitrust case that I'm mentioning with Alston, but it is in a lot of ways, because it's kind of under the overall umbrella of benefits conferred to the athletes. And my understanding is the reason why, a large part of the reason why the NCAA did not implement their own internal rule changes back in January, they had promised for a very long time that they would do, is because of the pending ruling in the Alston case. So how is that going to be determined? My understanding is the ruling's due at the end of June. So when we get a ruling there, I believe we'll hopefully see a uniform federal approach taken here, whether that's through the United States Congress with passing a federal law or with the NCAA's own rule changes. Really just hopeful that will happen before the fall, so that there's clarity for the athletes, for administrators within the athletic department, and everyone across the board that has an interest in how name, image, likeness is going to look.
Dustin, you being a former college athlete and a college coach, do you like this?
Oh, absolutely, Shane. I went to law school primarily because of the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit. As I said, I was on those video games myself, two separate series, I think 2007 and 2008 editions of those games. I was playing for St. Louis University at the time, And it was cool to see yourself on the video games, but that whole concept of the use of your identity that you don't get to control, that really became an interest of mine as a college basketball player, and then led the interest of going to law school. And to see it playing out over the past decade plus, and to now see the individual states essentially taking on the NCAA and saying, we're standing up for our state citizens with this. And make no mistake about it, that's what's going on. We have over half of the states in the nation that are either passing or working on within their own state legislature state laws to get this changed in order to, again, stand up to the NCAA. So yes, I like it. It's been a very, very long time coming. For those of us that have been paying attention to it since the O'Bannon lawsuit, which I believe was filed in 2009.
A couple more minutes with Dustin McGuire. He's an attorney that is one of a number of attorneys that are diving into this brand new name, image, likeness thing, this world that's going to be, it's not going to go away. It's going to be part of college athletics in some form, shape, or fashion. Did I hear St. Louis as in Billikens?
Correct, yeah, St. Louis University Billikens. That's where I'm from, St. Louis area, and played there for 2 seasons.
Let me check with Evan, our producer, and Shane. Is that the first Billikens reference ever on our show?
Oh, there's no question.
Absolutely. First time the Billikens make the show here on College Sports Today, and it's a good thing. Let me back up, and I don't know if I'm crossing over related or unrelated issues. The huge, still ongoing FBI college basketball, college football investigations where the Fed boys have come in and are basketball's still going on. I think the football is still going on. And we won't get deep into them, but if name, image, and likeness was already in place 5 years ago, would these, the shoe companies and Chuck Person and would the name, image, and likeness have just covered it? Could they have just went to the coaches and players and said, hey, here's some cash. We want you to basically we want you to be a Nike guy, a Under Armour guy. Would this have covered those guys? Are people in prison now and going to prison because this wasn't 5 years ago?
Great question, Terry. And, I am one to have the conversation of this FBI investigation that you mentioned within the same context of name, image, likeness. I don't see a whole lot of people connecting the dots there. But I think it definitely is a conversation worth having where you're mentioning these kind of in the same thought. Obviously, the FBI investigation and what we saw that went on, I believe, in the fall of 2019, that had to do with prospective student athletes, right? So yes. The inducement of, choosing school A or school B, which happened to be a Nike school or
yes.
Adidas school, because of getting influence. So then I think your question is best answered by, identifying whether or not the quote rule changes or laws would impact the prospective student athletes. And that's a giant question surrounding all of this because we're so focused on what's going to be going on on the campus, right, with the current athletes that are there, and what can they do, and what rights do they have? Can they sign conflicting contracts, for example, with the schools? I mean, those are all very, very important questions. But then, to your question, what does this have to do with the prospective student athletes? And if it were allowed, if the prospective student athletes could earn money on their name, image, likeness, then possibly they could have had their own Nike deal or their own Adidas deal. So to make criminals out of those that were involved in this, I think it's a tragedy. That background of grassroots basketball is where I come from. I was at the Reebok ABCD camp with Greg Oden, and was on his team. I saw the way, these 15, 16, and 17-year-olds were just highly coveted to attend whatever particular school. Yeah. So my eyes were open to that as a teenager. And again, I think it's amazing to see, over the past 15, 18 years how it's progressed, and we're really dealing with issues today that should have been dealt with over a decade ago.
Dustin, did you see what I think it was the governor of the state of Georgia passed or did something a couple of days ago? Are you familiar with that?
That 75% thing?
Yes, it's 75%. I believe up to that amount could be pooled and shared amongst all athletes, which, for that thought to even enter the discussion of name, image, likeness, I think proves a lack of understanding of the background. Again, this is an individual right of publicity, right? An individual's right of publicity. So how is the topic of pooling anything included in that discussion. I think it's terrible.
Okay, so you think it's terrible. My concern is, let's use football for example. Obviously, the quarterback gets all the notoriety, is going to make the most money off his name, image, and likeness depending on where he plays or whatever. Do you think, being a former athlete yourself, this quarterback, here I am, I'm the left tackle, I'm busting my tail, protecting him, I'm the receivers catching these balls, and I'm not getting a piece of the pie. Do you think it's going to cause any issues in the locker room?
No, I think we already see that it's doable, right? Professional sports, those athletes are able to figure it out. And yes, the college guys and gals are younger, but I've been in those locker rooms. I've competed at a very high level, and I can tell you, when you get out on the court or the field, it's not about who's making what or who's in whatever academic program. If athletes are treating their, responsibility to their sport and being the best that they can be, and not only for themselves but also for the team, there shouldn't be any of that coming into this. This is a good thing for all athletes. I'm happy to elaborate on why it is such a good thing, but there should not be any animosity or jealousy because the tackle doesn't earn the same amount that the quarterback does. I mean, the opportunities will be there, right? And that's what this is about. Please, just keep that in mind, that this is about removing restrictions that apply to the athletes and the athletes alone. I think that's why we've seen such progress here, is because when we remove those restrictions, then we'll see what everyone's value is, right? And some will be higher than others, but that should not stand in the way of the progress that needs to be made here.
I know you need to get going, but man, we could do this for a long time. Couple more quick ones for Dustin McGuire, attorney that's involved in name, image, likeness, and figuring it out as we all go. Backtrack just a little bit. The high school athlete, right? The NIL is basic in its basic form, protects the college athletes' amateurism while they receive money. So you can't mess with their amateurism. If the college athlete can do that, the high school can do this now. I would imagine. How could the law of the land say no? 16-year-old LeBron James, he could have made a ton of money. And Greg Oden, you mentioned. So I got to believe this will bleed down to the high school level, good, bad, or indifferent, right?
You have to think so. And there was a 35-page PDF that came out from the NCAA several months ago as their proposed rule changes. And interestingly, those proposed rule changes from the NCAA would treat the prospective student athletes the same as the existing student athletes. So I think that's been identified, that to try to tell those that haven't yet made it to the campus that they don't have the same rights as they do when they make it to campus, I don't think that's feasible. So you definitely have to look at it from that perspective of NIL applying to the prospective student athletes, and then with that comes the question of how does it impact recruiting, and it does. Look at what's going on in the SEC states right now. I mean, it's almost day after day. I think yesterday South Carolina announced that they've got an NIL law. So SEC football has taken NIL and ran with it over the past 2-3 weeks. We're seeing so much movement there. So obviously, yes, it does impact recruiting. No state wants to give the other state a recruiting advantage, and that's clear based on what we've seen over the past month.
My head's already hurting, probably yours as well. We'll get out of here on this. I don't even think I want to touch right now. We'll get you back on, Dustin. I don't even think I want to touch what may or may not happen crossing state lines in different states if they got different rules. And then I don't even want to get into the international golfer, tennis player, track and field. I mean, I don't want to get into that at the college level or even the high school level. I know Grant Holloway here at Florida, one of the great men's track and field athletes ever. While he was at Florida, I know European companies would have paid him $1 gazillion to represent. Shane, I don't know if you've got anything else for Dustin. Dustin, we could go a long time. Boy, you've cleared up a lot, but it's a murky area right now, and it's going to be that way, I would assume, for a while, right?
Well, hopefully not for too long.
Yeah.
Again, there are a number of federal laws that are pending here, and again, the NCAA has kicked the can on changing its own rules, which could potentially happen this summer. So hopefully that happens before the fall. We could be headed towards a wild fall and football season, that's for sure.
Dustin, thank you. I know you got to get on about your business. Thanks so much for your time. It's a pleasure talking to you earlier in the week, setting this up. And if you don't mind, we may tap into you again down the road a few times as we go.
I'd be glad to come back on, Terry. Thanks for having me on. Shane, pleasure talking with you. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to get back in touch with me.
Thank you, buddy. We appreciate it. That's Dustin McGuire, based out of the state of Illinois. But again, I looked around to find an expert, and his firm, they've locked up nameimagelikeness.com. Obviously, that's going to be a part of their practice. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. But Shane, we'll take the headsets off now. Still, before we go to break, we'll come back. Got a lot of show left, but Shane, still just a ton. There's a lot of layers to this onion.
Oh yeah, there's no question. I think it's cool that he being a former college athlete himself,
absolutely,
made him want to go to law school about it.
Yeah, and I love the fact we got the Billikens on.
The Billikens.
We check the Billikens off the box there. So there you have it. Wow, that's it's interesting. There's a lot going on. I also wonder, as before we take a quick break, I don't know all the SEC, using the SEC as an example, 14 schools over 11 states. I don't think all 11 have their sign-on date yet, right? If all 11 don't, does Greg Sankey go to all 11 and say, hey, what do we do here? Do we say, let's table it until everybody figures out what they're doing and gets signed off? Or do the Floridas of the world go, table hell?
Yeah.
No. So what do you do if you're Greg Sankey if all 11 states that represent your 14 programs aren't signed off for this way or that way? What do you do?
I have no idea. And I was going to bring up the one thing that I'm not on board yet with, the question I asked about, the left tackle or the receiver.
Yeah.
And he compared it to, in the NFL. Well, the NFL is different. You know what you're getting in the NFL. You're getting paid.
Yeah.
I still have concerns about that because we do know that the guys that score touchdowns are going to be paid a lot of money.
And I do know, too, and I'm not doubting, Dustin, but I don't think it's going to be as, our quarterback's making a lot. He made it sound a little Pollyanna there.
Yeah.
I think human nature is going to be.
Because in the NFL, you still have people that get upset over salaries.
Sure.
But everybody's being paid there.
Sure.
Not everybody's going to be making, and that's why I kind of like the Georgia deal. Because think about at the collegiate level, let's just go back to Tim Tebow, how much money he would have made doing this.
Yeah.
But if a percentage of it was spread among your teammates, you got your walk-ons who run scout team every freaking day. You got, the backup DBs.
Absolutely.
I just think it would be a lot better for everyone involved.
Does the student manager, does the grad assistant say, hey, man, I'm out here helping this team as well? Makes you also wonder, could an organization swoop in? Could Nike say, I want to buy the offense at Florida and then cut, or I want to buy Florida and cut everybody $200,000, everybody gets $2,000.
Here's what could be interesting. Florida, we're a Nike school, but we're jump man.
Yep.
In football, which I think is silly, having a basketball player on a football jersey. But regardless. But let's just use Kyle Trask, for example. Let's go back to last year. Could Adidas say, I want to pay Kyle Trask.
Yep.
You're a Jumpman school.
Isn't that amazing?
You're gonna have the Jumpman. Everybody else is gonna be wearing Jumpman, but your quarterback, I'm gonna pay him X amount of dollars to wear the 3 stripes.
Isn't that amazing? Right there, we think alike. Coke versus Pepsi. Florida's a Pepsi school. What if your dad or your uncle or your brother or your whoever works at Coca-Cola and Coke says, "Hey, we'd love, yeah, okay." Where does that fall? Do you want your player and the program litigating?
Well,
what if you're a Nike school and Under Armour? Yeah.
Well, thinking about it, it's going to become the NFL because in the NFL, the uniforms are made by Nike now. Every team has Nike, but everybody has their own shoe contract.
Yeah. Jerry Jones fought that a little bit with Pepsi. Remember, right? He wanted Pepsi in his big new stadium, and the NFL was not, or vice versa. And he said, "To hell with it. Either you pay me the money, I've got a deal."
Yeah,
I've got a deal. It's. I don't want to see I love the portal, and I think I love NIL implementation.
I think people are going to put their dollar.
Yeah,
amount
I mean, wouldn't that be? That just would leave a bad taste in your mouth, wouldn't it? Shane Matthews, quarterback, 2 years of eligibility,
but like
minimum bid $75,000.
It's not college football then. It's not college sports anymore.
And I've said this. I got 3 things. And I tie this into Title IX. I love Title IX. I agree with Title IX. The problem with Title IX is implementation. There's no way to implement it without hurting a large group. Implementation, essence, unintended consequences. See, you hit it. This is some serious stuff. Be careful what you wish for, because college athletics, as we know it and have loved it, could go away. Shane, there has got to be a differentiator between professional sports and college sports. That's why we love college sports. If everybody looks around and says, all of these college athletes, they're professional athletes, right? Then you're going to go, a large percentage is going to go, I don't have the love and the draw. I'm just watching the fourth best quarterback in the state of Florida. You know what I mean?
So
be careful.
Here's what I don't understand.
It's just, if it turns into pro sports,
here's what I don't
the
understand.
essence of college will be gone, and I think that it'll be gone.
So in pro sports, Pat Mahomes, you know, the 49ers, if they want to pay Pat Mahomes $40 million a year, they have to make this huge trade to get him when he's not a free agent.
Yeah.
Well, what's to say, let's go back to Kyle Trask last year, had a phenomenal year.
Yeah.
What if Oklahoma says, you know what, we'll give you $200,000 to come play for us next year?
Absolutely.
He can do it.
Absolutely.
So I think you're going to see players going
Yes.
from school to school to school, whoever pays them the most
Now,
money.
I agree with you. What you just described is pro football.
It's pro football with not having a contract.
But the love, as the fan that loves college football, a large part of it is because there's a difference, right? That third Saturday in October needs to mean Alabama, Tennessee. And if it just looks like, well, that's minor league pro football players going at it. What does the individual donor out there, those donors to the tune of hundreds of thousands of donors, send money every year to their favorite program? They say, I want to help out. I know only two sports make money. One sport makes money. They send their $20,000, $50,000, $10,000. Now, what if those donors, what if the program and the athlete are competing for the same dollar? Shane Matthews says, you know what? I want to send that money straight to the quarterback of that program. Well, that school is going to miss that money.
Yeah.
If it happens to the 10th, I don't know. There's a million things. I enjoyed that conversation. We'll do it again. You see all the great sponsors. We're going to take a quick break, but man, I always want to point out we can't do it without Vita de Louis and the two Safe Harbor seafood restaurants located, of course, in Mayport and Crescent Beach. Sliders Oyster Bar, one of my favorite hangouts in Neptune. All-American Roll-Off and Recycling, Campus USA. Always growing. If you've got a business, product, or service you'd like to advertise right here on College Sports Today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell, please reach out to me any and all different ways on the Facebook page. It's easiest to drop me a direct message. Matthews is here. I'm Norvell. Spurrier back on Monday. Let's take a break. It's the Friday edition of College Sports Today.
Watch me, I come with me bad behavior. All because of this damn tequila. If you're boring, now come in. Me and me friend them come fi take over. Hot girl here. You know we got in your own here. Come and know you're expensive and dear. Walk out and show off, yeah, me dear. All the good vibes we had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again. Watch out!
Let me take a moment to thank some of the wonderful sponsors that make College Sports Today with the head ball coach Steve Spurrier, Shane Matthews, and Terry Norvell possible. The official seafood restaurants of the show are Sliders Oyster Bar in Neptune Beach and their sister restaurants, Safe Harbor Seafood Restaurant of Mayport and the new Safe Harbor Seafood Restaurant location in Crescent Beach. The next time you crave the best seafood, the freshest seafood on the Northeast Florida coast, make sure you visit
Safe Harbor Seafood Restaurant in Mayport, Sliders Oyster Bar in Neptune Beach, and Safe Harbor Seafood Restaurant in Crescent Beach, the official seafood restaurant of College Sports Today. All-American Roll-Off and Recycling, serving your construction job and demolition project needs among their many other services. All-American Roll-Off and Recycling is ready to work with you on your next project anywhere throughout the Northeast Florida and surrounding areas. Visit their website, all-americanrolloff.com, or call them at 904-503-1410. Campus USA Credit Union. Find out what over 100,000 members already know. Visit a Campus USA Credit Union today and find out how they can work for you financially. If you would like to advertise your business right here on College Sports Today with Coach Spurrier, Shane Matthews, and me, Terry Norvell, then simply drop me an email at tnsportsjacks@yahoo.com, and I'll be sure to make that happen. Thanks again to our great show sponsors. Now let's get back to more College Sports Today.
Wow, thoroughly enjoyed that conversation about the NIL. There they are, the people that helped make this show happen. As a matter of fact, a brand new world premiere of Vita De Louis. They got another spot coming up here soon. So that'll be Monday. We'll premiere their second commercial, one of our great sponsors. You see the rest. They all make it happen. We can't do the show without these folks. By the way, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, they've got the hiring goes one more week. They go through May 15th. So if you're looking for a server's job, a restaurant, bar industry job, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, go to that website, spurriersgridirongrill.com, and hit the contact button. It'll go right to a page. You click apply. It's very easy. They're finishing up all the hiring, so make sure you get over to that website. And if you're in the Gainesville area or going to be in the Gainesville area, as school will be back in soon, the full semesters, go to the website and apply as you see fit. I want to thank everybody that is following the show, College Sports Today, on our podcast platforms. Thank you very much. Make sure you are subscribed to College Sports Today our YouTube channel. Need you to get on there, and Facebook, College Sports Today, for you folks on the podcast. Shane Matthews, Terry Norvell. Shane, bouncing around a couple things real quick. LSU, we thought the quarterback room would start thinning out. TJ Finley has said, I'm out of here. So it's, what, Max Johnson, Miles Brennan to battle it out.
Yeah, and I think, TJ Finley, I said it on my show, I'll be shocked if anybody signs him. I think he'll end up playing like in the SWAC or at the level below, because he's the guy, Terry, that goes to the Under Armour Combine or the Elite 11 and just tears it up because nobody's coming at you. You have to make no decisions or anything like that.
He reminded me, he started a couple games for LSU. He had one really good game. He reminded me of Joe Milton, the quarterback from Michigan, who opened the season against Minnesota, I think. And we didn't know Minnesota wasn't very good at the time. And he had a good game, and he went straight downhill. Finley had one flash. Yeah. Are you saying that because he's a guy that throws it over the mountain? He's big, strong.
Big, strong, looks good in shorts.
Yeah.
Can throw it 100 miles an hour and throw it 100 yards, but none of that matters when you play quarterback.
Now, my concern with LSU, and this happens with programs that have a couple guys fighting it out. They don't have a starter right now. Looks like they're going to go into August camp, right? And it's going to be Brennan coming off of injury and Max Johnson, who had some flashes the second half of the year. The problem LSU could run into, Shane, you've seen it a million times, if you never quite, particularly the first half of the season, you bounce between this guy and this guy, nobody grabs it, you might lose a couple games because nobody grabbed it. They open at UCLA. They've got UCLA in the first part of their schedule. They've got UCLA at Mississippi State, which is a game I think you're going to have to score some points.
Which is, they're still, I can't figure out how they're like number 8 in the country.
Isn't that amazing? But isn't that a team you're going to have to score points? You don't want a quarterback controversy. So UCLA will be, this is LSU first half of the season. I worry that they don't have a guy in place, and you lose games when you bounce back and forth. UCLA early, Mississippi State in the first half. Auburn's a wild card. Well, they better not lose a game or two because of quarterback play, because the back half they've got Florida, Alabama, and Texas A&M. So you better figure that quarterback thing out quick, LSU. Don't give away a game or two because you're bouncing between guys. And then you get your ass handed to you in the second half of the year, and you look up, you got 5 losses. Tennessee, the Volunteers football finally You see they got some good news. They got the leading tackler last year from Texas, linebacker by the name of Jawan Mitchell. Is that the first good news Tennessee has had in 10 years?
Yeah, because they lost a lot of their good players, went to OU.
Tennessee's best football players are playing for Oklahoma. So, boy, they could use that. But the leading tackler for Texas, the Longhorns last year, Jawan Mitchell, goes to Tennessee, ready to play. Alabama picks up four-star receiver Jamison Williams from Ohio State. Not a lot of catches in his time at Ohio State, but he's caught passes. He's caught touchdown passes in the playoff, right? Alabama, they need another receiver or two, I think, don't they? A little bit like, or we just don't know them.
We don't really know.
We don't know them?
No, yeah, we don't know. Trust me.
We just don't know the name?
Yeah.
We just don't know the name. And we talked about the Jimbo comments. I love that, don't you? That's booster camp talk, and he says we're going to kick Saban's ass, and Saban comes back. What are you talking about in golf? Don't you love that? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you've got to go to those dreaded booster club meetings anyway, spice it up a little bit. Are those the worst? Do you still speak at some of those?
Not many.
Yeah.
Not many.
I think they've kind of died out. I mean, they're around. The booster clubs are around, but the massive media exposure has kind of killed those. Mm-hmm. You know, remember, you'd get a coach or an ex-player come into a booster club 15 years ago, and they'd have some insight because you didn't see it all on the internet.
Correct.
And you were at practice, or now it is all over there. Evan, can we flash this up? This is from a slide from 2 days ago. I got home, turned on TV, was watching the Paul Feinbaum show. Paul Feinbaum, terrific broadcaster, longtime broadcaster. Ross Dellinger was on his show, and Ross, I think, was a LSU beat writer for a long time. He's now with SI. But I want you to read the bottom. This shocked me. I got up and took a picture, so I got to use this. Look at the caption at the bottom. So Dellinger is on Feinbaum's show this week, talking about the College Football Playoff Committee, how they're looking at expanding from 4 to maybe 6, maybe 8, maybe 12, maybe 16. Look at the caption. This is what chaps me. Inside 27 months of playoff expansion discussion and the arduous path ahead. And Evan, you can pull that now. 27. We're talking about college football, Shane. The college football powers that be that run college football, for the 40 years that I've followed it, Shane, hard, they make you think running the sport of college football is the hardest damn thing in the world. Why? Shane, they make you think they're not splitting the atom or brokering Middle East peace. 27 months. That's 12 months or so before the pandemic. What's so hard about it?
I have no idea, man.
And you saw, I heard on your show, that same committee last week said they went over 63 different plans to expand. 63 plans over 27 months on how to go from 4 to maybe 6, 8, 12, 14, or 16. Shane, what am I missing here?
I'm right there with you. I don't know why it's so difficult.
Well, you know what they bring up all the time? They say, well, the first hurdle is the TV contracts. Yeah. You know why that's Shane, TV contracts in this negotiation are moot. They are I can handle it right now. Okay? Yes, there are TV contracts involved. And I think they last another 5, 6 years by the letter of the contract, right? Here's how you handle that. But they make you think it's so hard. Oh, the TV contracts. Here's how you do it, Shane. You are the Power 5, the NCAA. You want to go from 4 to an expanded playoff to make more money. You do have TV contracts that have dates on them. You go to your TV partner, Shane, and you go, okay, look, we want to expand. We know the contract lasts another 6 or 8 years. We don't want to wait that long. Now, you can hold our feet to the fire, okay? And we can't do diddly squat for 4, 6, 8 years. We don't want that. We're telling you we don't want that. If you hold our feet to the fire, that time frame will end, right? That contract date will come and go. If you don't play ball with us now, the next time we negotiate, you don't have a seat at the table. And see what they do. Of course they're going to acquiesce to you. Mm-hmm. The TV contract length is no factor. Because of that reason, you say, dude, if you hold our feet to the fire, and you can do that legally, and there's not a damn thing we can do, but you will not be at this negotiating table in 6 years. And you won't be at this negotiating table for 50 damn years. What are they going to do, Shane? They're going to renegotiate.
Correct.
Your partnership's got to go both ways. But Shane, they make it sound like it's the hardest damn thing. Most people think, and I think Brent Beard on your show, 6 to 8 is the expansion number. Is
Yeah,
that what he said?
I think.
What do you think?
I like to go at minimum 8. I have no problem going more,
Yeah.
but no less than 8
I'm
because
fine.
I think you do your 5 Power 5 champs, and you have at least 3 at-larges.
Yep.
So
Beautiful.
I have no problem going 12. I have no problem going 16. I think minimum has to be 8.
I'm with you. I love 8. 6 would help. I don't think it does enough. If you go 6, go 8. If you go 6, go 8. 12, 16. Here's why I think 8, from a ratio standpoint, works so good. Right now we deal with, quote unquote, 130 Division I football programs. And you say, okay, 4 are getting in. That's a bad ratio. Well, I'm convinced we've got one more Big Bang theory, Big Bang in college football. You know, the last Big Bang we had, realignment and stuff, was 2012, right? A&M came in, Missouri came in, the ACC did this. We've got another Big Bang movement, realignment in college athletics soon. It's going to get to be, the big 65-ish are going to pull away. I think 8 out of 65 is a great number. I think 8 of 65, when the Power 5 and Notre Dame, if you add up all those, they're going to break away, right, soon. Right? Southern Miss and East Carolina don't need to be at the table, Division I table,
Right.
with SEC, ACC, Big Ten, right? The Power 5 is going to break away. So I think, Shane, I'm with you. 8, 65, great. 2 teams bye, maybe, right? 2 top teams bye. And off we go. Well, there you have it. Wow, where'd show go? Enjoyed that NIL talk a lot. Big baseball series. Florida's got to go win the next 2. Blue. We didn't get deep into the Florida baseball. Man, they blew that game last night.
They did.
The 8th inning in what, a tie game. This is hard to do in baseball. In the 8th inning, Florida got 2 hits and a walk and didn't score.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
How do you do that in
I went to
baseball?
bed, yeah.
That's hard to do in baseball. I will say this, your boy Alman, the guy that started last night, the guy has no luck. I mean, there was a 17 hopper that never made it out of the grass. Perfect spot, base hit, ground ball. The kid has no luck at all. Wow, Florida is really going to need some help. That'll wrap it up. Hey, remember, Coach Spurrier back in on Monday. He's going to have a lot of stories. He's been very, very busy. Restaurant is about to open. We'll have Coach Spurrier, the whole gang here Monday for the Monday edition of College Sports Today. We'll have our brand new Vita de Louis commercial. Let me tease it a little bit. Many celebrities in that commercial, as a matter of fact. Many, many celebrities. You'll see that new Vita de Louis commercial, the official tequila of College Sports Today, on Monday. That'll do it. We'll have Coach Spurrier right back here on Monday. Hope you join us for the next edition of College Sports Today.